At this point, I was up in Minnesota. About a year after I got there, the heroin epidemic took off. Minneapolis, on record from the DEA, had the purest heroin in the U.S. at that time. Just go figure. You put me from Florida where the heroin sucks, that we had oxys and stuff. You put me in Minneapolis that has the purest heroin in the U.S. at the time, right off to the races. You're in an M state, so you might as well do meth. And I'll tell you, as you start doing meth, you attract attention to yourself real quick. You do some weird shit on meth. It's like, here I am, come get me. I end up meeting a young lady. Her name's Whitney, mother of my child. I'll throw this out there, that bar gets lowered. I remember when she got pregnant. We met in the bar. I was back to bartending, and I was personal training at this point. Bartending, personal training. Those were my go-tos. I end up meeting her. She gets pregnant. Her dad had just passed from cancer, so she had access to his oxys. Essentially, I met the only opiate addict up there. I'm like, hey, we're definitely a thing. We got that in common, right? I mentioned earlier, everyone's alcohol and meth up there. She gets pregnant, and this thought comes across, thank God she's pregnant. Now I can be sober. What human being needs a better reason? I'm ashamed to say it, but we used through her entire pregnancy. IV heroin through the whole thing. The week our son Weston was born, he was born healthy by the grace of God. She had quit using 10 days before giving birth so that in the hospital they wouldn't take him. I don't know how she did it. She just cold turkeyed. She had gone to treatment while she was pregnant for a small stint. He's 3 weeks old, walked right out the front door by the police. We couldn't keep a newborn for more than 3 weeks before losing custody of him. It didn't end there. You know, we had got him back temporarily, lost custody again. I ended up going to a center. I got on methadone. In particular, there's a type of, it's not actually methadone. It says in parentheses on the bottle methadone, but there's a type of methadone called LAM, L-A-A-M. It's actually more physically addicting than regular methadone. It has intentionally a 48-hour half-life versus the 24-hour half-life. In theory, you only have to go to the methadone clinic 2 to 3 times a week. Well, this clinic had you go every day anyway. So I ended up on 115 milligrams. However, if you do the math, pretty much every day you dose, you still have half the dose in your body from the previous day. So my tolerance, because of methadone, went through the roof. I had actually, being the good addict that I am, manipulated the system. It was like a 40-minute drive to the methadone clinic. Got them to write me an exemption letter. The therapist wrote me an exemption letter to put me on take-homes right away because it was a hardship. So the only drug test I ever passed was the very first one. So I'm getting take-homes from the get-go. Each one of these bottles is 12 shots in a syringe. So every day I went to the methadone clinic, I knew I could stick a needle in my arm 12 times for that day. On top of the heroin, my tolerance was so high because of the methadone that like the heroin, essentially, I just looked for the rush. So I had to do like extra large shots of heroin.